Today is one of those days where the headlines are moving faster than the politicians can explain them. Iran is firing into the Gulf. American forces are being tested. Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq, Qeshm Island, the Strait of Hormuz, all of it is suddenly back on the board. And while the Middle East is lighting up, Ukraine is reaching deep into Russia, hitting the fuel system, hitting the oil infrastructure, reminding Putin that distance is no longer protection. So no, this is not just another news cycle. This is what it looks like when America's enemies start checking the fences at the same time. Iran wants to see how far it can push the Gulf. Russia wants to see how long it can grind down Ukraine. And the world wants to know one thing. Does America still mean what it says? That's why this morning, we're not starting with spin. We're not starting with cable news. We're not starting with the talking points. We're not starting with some expert panel arguing over pronouns. We're starting where the truth always shows up first. Folks, before we talk politics, look at the map. The ceasefire did not break in a press conference. It broke over Kuwait. It broke over Bahrain. It broke over Qeshm Island, which is right here. You can see in this area, right around Bandar Abbas. That is where Qeshm Island is located. And I will remove some of these filters so you can get a better look at this. So this is Qeshm Island, right in this area. And while all of that was happening, Ukraine reached deep into Russia and hit St. Petersburg, Putin's backyard, right as he was trying to put on his big international showcase with the likes of some of the Podcastistan podcasters, Candace Owens, Ian Carroll. I'm sure Nick Fuentes is there hiding in a closet somewhere. Now, that is not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence of history. That is the world testing weakness in real time. Iran is testing the Gulf. They are launching more attacks into Kuwait, into Iraq, into Oman, into Qatar, into UAE. They are lashing out at all of their neighbors. Russia's testing the West, and Ukraine is testing Russia's rear area. And the United States is being forced to answer a simple question. Are we going to secure the lanes, defend our forces, and project strength? Or are we going to pretend missiles and drones are just bad weather? You can see the Strait of Hormuz here. We're starting to see more traffic move in and out, and that could very well be shut down. And this morning, the map is screaming. So here's what we know. Iran has been operating under what everybody keeps calling a ceasefire. But now we have reports of Iranian missile and drone attacks hitting or targeting Gulf countries, including Kuwait and Bahrain. Kuwait says its airport was damaged. One person was reportedly killed. Several others were injured. Flights were disrupted. U.S. forces and partner air defenses were intercepting threats in the region. I've got some footage here. You can see the debris on the ground from a Iranian missile. And at the same time, we have the United States responding with strikes near Qeshm Island, which sits right there at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz.
The U.S. military saying Iranian missile attacks on Bahrain, Kuwait, and other regional targets were either thwarted or failed. U.S. Central Command said 2 Iranian missiles shot at Kuwait fell short or broke apart in flight. It said it also downed Iranian drones targeting civilian ships and U.S. forces in Kuwait and intercepted 3 missiles headed for Bahrain. Central Command added that it carried out strikes on Qeshm Island near the Strait of Hormuz following attempted attacks by Iran. Iranian state media reported that the country's Revolutionary Guard Corps attacked the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain using missiles and drones.
Now, we have confirmation that they may have launched missiles at the Fifth Fleet headquarters, but none of those impacted in that area. CENTCOM came out and made a statement saying that. Yesterday, we had another attack or another drone strike, a Hellfire missile strike on a tanker that was trying to load up with oil there at Karg Island. The United States says, not so fast. This is a blockade. We're not going to allow that. Hormuz is where all of this happens, guys. The Strait of Hormuz right here. And this is where everything is getting a little frisky. And you can see this is Larik Island. Hormuz Island is just north of that. You can see all of this occurring in and around the Strait of Hormuz. This is the choke point that is choking out the world's economy, the world's, what I would say, commerce. And that is leverage by the Iranians. That's blackmail with a press release. That's what they want. So we're going to start with a larger picture here. Iran wants to have it both ways. And right now, I don't believe they can have everything that they want. They have to make some level of concessions. These airstrikes that were happening overnight, you can see the chaos in the background here. Here's the claim by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, claim they struck the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters. CENTCOM came out and replied, all Iranian attacks on American forces failed. U.S. forces remain vigilant and ready to defend against unwarranted Iranian aggression. That is how this happens. This is what I would call bad information. This is propaganda that the Iranians are spreading to try to sow some dissent. You can see this is a very peaceful nation. And you know, a lot of benefits and personal freedoms there, as you could tell by those photos. But last night, we saw Kuwait get hit. Bahrain gets targeted. U.S. positions come under threat. The President of the United States continues to come out and make statements about what is happening. And now the statements are starting to happen on the ground, on the sea, and in the air. And the president is not going to back down on any of this. This strike on this tanker, this Shadow Fleet tanker, should have sent a very powerful message that that's exactly what we're doing. Iran wants leverage. The United States and all of these neighboring countries want free passage through the Strait of Hormuz. They know what Kuwait means. They know what Bahrain means. They know what the Fifth Fleet means. They know what Hormuz means. They know what the oil markets mean. And they know that American voters are upset with gas prices. And that's not random. This is pressure politics. And whenever they can't get their tankers filled and deployed and selling oil, then they're going to try to throw some leverage at the United States. They're going to try to throw some leverage at the world's economic platform and the way that this operates. This is not regional tension. This is spreading around the world right now because of one little piece of water, a 21-mile stretch with a 4-mile shipping lane. That's what's causing all this problem. Now let's talk about Kuwait. Kuwait is not just some side note. Kuwait is a U.S. partner. There are American forces in that broader environment. It's a staging area, a support node, a strategic footprint. If you go back to the Iraq War, that's where all military equipment came through, a deep water port there called Shuaibah. So when Iranian missiles and drones are flying towards Kuwait, you are not just watching a country in the Gulf take incoming fire. You're watching Iran test American force protection. That matters because every missile Iran fires tells every other bad actor in the world something. China's watching, Russia's watching, the Houthis are watching, Hezbollah's watching. Every little tin pot regime with a drone factory is watching what's happening. They're asking one question: what does America do when its people, its partners, and shipping lanes are tested? I want you to see this video of this clip of this missile that's being launched at night here. So you can see this is what's occurring. This is occurring over Kuwait, Bahrain. Bahrain's where the Fifth Fleet is. This is a problem. This has to be addressed quickly. I want to show you where Bahrain is. So Bahrain is just literally across the sea. I would say probably 50 kilometers, maybe 40 miles wide there. You can see Bahrain. There's Manama. That is where the 5th Fleet headquarters is. The United States Navy has had a base there forever. The Navy, this is a very important piece of water. It's a very important stronghold that we help maintain a level of freedom. We keep the sea lanes open. And when Iran claims it targeted the 5th Fleet area, even if U.S. forces say the attacks failed or intercepted, the strategic message is still clear. Iran wants to know and show it can threaten the naval command. That's the signal. You may have carriers, you may have destroyers, you may have air defense, but we can still make this region unstable. And that's why weakness at sea gets expensive real fast. And you can see just northwest of Bahrain is Kuwait. This is a massive area that we need to control. Here we have another video clip of an Iranian ballistic missile flying overhead. You're going to see the chaos ensuing as these people are fleeing for their lives here. They don't know where this missile's going. We don't trust Iranian targeting. So I believe there's something the media is missing. They're going to ask a couple of strong questions. They're going to say, is this hurting diplomacy? That's the wrong question. They're going to ask, is the ceasefire still technically in effect? Wrong question. They're going to ask, can both sides return to talks? I believe that's the wrong question. The right question is, what does Iran believe it can get away with? That is the whole ball game right now, because they continue to pressure this region. Here's more images of airstrikes. You can hear the sirens going off there. This is the kind of chaos and terror that they are causing in that region. They are not letting up. Got more video footage here of debris from an Iranian ballistic missile. This was near Ali Salim Air Base, a United States military air base in that area. You can see the wreckage burning on the ground. This is how close they came to threatening, injuring, killing American forces. And folks, I spent enough time around the military mindset to tell you this. Deterrence is not about being loud. Deterrence is about being understood. Your enemy has to understand where the line is. They have to believe you mean what you say. And if they don't believe that, then every red line becomes a suggestion. Every ceasefire becomes a timeout for the other guy to reload. Now, meanwhile, and this is why today's story is bigger than Iran, Ukraine just hit deep into Russia. Several 100-foot tall flame from a ruptured tank falling to attack in St. Petersburg. Look at this. This is hundreds of feet tall. Reuters has reported this Ukrainian drone struck in St. Petersburg near an oil terminal. This happened as Putin's major economic forum is getting underway. A lot of people are calling the event Russians' version of Davos. Flights are disrupted. Infrastructure was damaged. Russia claimed it shot down dozens of drones. This is a prestige city. This is a political city. This is the capital city. That is where Russia wants to project power, and Ukraine just sent a message. You can hit Kiev but we can reach you too. There's a lot of American influencers, or they're there in the area, which are seeing all of this unfold in real time. This is a different phase of the war in Ukraine and Russia. This is not just trench lines and artillery anymore. Ukraine understands something Russia hoped nobody would notice. Russia's war machine runs on fuel, and they are trying to target that fuel supply. They don't want them to get this. Here's another clip of a Ukrainian strike drone hitting a Russian air defense system. So with the pinpoint accuracy, the way that they can drive these drones through this first person view, this is going to change everything. And I think Putin is probably going to respond very quickly. This just happened yesterday. Russia launched a heinous attack against Ukraine, killing 22 civilians. They have intensified their aerial bombing. That's the battlefield now. They're just lobbing ballistic missiles back and forth. Ukraine's pressuring Russia's energy, and Russia is going to respond. That is how this whole thing plays out. Energy is power. And in a world at war, energy infrastructure becomes the battlefield. So here's the bottom line. Iran wants to make the Gulf expensive. Russia wants to make Ukraine exhausted. Ukraine wants to make Russia feel the cost at home. And America is sitting right in the middle of all of it, because whether Washington likes it or not, American power is still the thing every enemy tests. That's the real picture. Not the cable news spin, not the think tank fog, not diplomatic perfume sprayed over a burning map. The real picture is this. If Iran can threaten Hormuz, Kuwait, Bahrain, and U.S. forces under the banner of a ceasefire, then the ceasefire is not peace. It's camouflage. And if Ukraine can hit St. Petersburg while Putin is hosting the world, then Russia's war is no longer safely contained to the battlefield Putin chose. When you have influencers like Candace Owens and others going to Russia during this Ukraine attack on the capital there, what does it tell you about what you're seeing online? How much of it is real? How much of it is spin? How much of it is fake? If Iran and Ukraine are making attacks like this, and you're seeing people like Candace Owens venture into what we would call the battlefield, how serious is it? How much are they being paid? But I would zoom out and realize where I'm getting information from. I'm Ben Dykes, Christian, veteran, submarine force. Subscribe if you want clear, direct breakdowns of what these headlines really mean. Because the media sees the smoke, we're going to look at the fire. Smash that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Let's hope Candace comes home safe.